I'm back. Okay, well here we are today with a brand new product from Hotone. Well, at least it's not that old. There's plenty of reviewers, quote, that have looked at it, but have they really looked at it? All they've done is plugged in and played, and that's the end of the story as far as you're concerned. They don't care about things like warranty. They don't care about what's actually in there. They don't care about the quality of the device. They don't care about how it connects and things like that. But I'm here to change all that. If you want a proper review, and I mean a proper review, as opposed to what some of those people are doing, this is the place to come. We're going to cover all sorts of things, such as the multi-effects processor itself, the things like the IRs, the extra IRs that are in this that aren't in most of the others. I think there's 20 odd included. Anyway, enough of that for now, but I really want to get down and show you what's in the device first. We can take a real close look. We might discuss the processor, because this has got a newer processor than the Ampero, you know, the one I reviewed recently, and that was just a quick overview really. But this one is much improved, and I'll be doing some comparisons between the Ampero and the Ampero II Stomp. And you might be very surprised, this smaller device, it's a fair bit smaller, well, it's similar. It's substantially more powerful and does a load more other things. Very misleading. Now, just before I do get down to the nitty-gritty, so to speak, I have got a wah pedal coming from these guys. Well, I say coming from them, it's actually coming from Anderton's of all places, and I don't like Anderton's much at all. Well, that's life. I bought it and they had it in stock, and there it is. It will be in here soon, and that's another Hotone product that I'm going to be looking at. It's one of them expression control pedals, but it's also a wah. In fact, it includes 4 devices in one. Anyway, enough of that for now, because you'll be getting that in a different review. And I've got some great stuff coming up over Christmas, by the way, even a Marshall amp that you're really going to want to see. And I know you are, and nobody else will have one of these on their channel. So it's going to be exclusive over Christmas. Well, that's how I'd call it. You can call it what you like. Hope you like the owls, by the way. They're watching you. Let's get down to having a closer look at this. If you look at the bottom section of this unit, you can see that you've got a main board down here, and there's a lot of connections down on the board here. These are at the back. These that are at the back are actually fixed directly onto that bottom board. And it seems to me that the bottom board, really, it's more of an I/O board than anything else. Connects off up to the top board, which we'll come back to later. On the right hand side, you've got this effects loop that wasn't there before, and 1 or 2 other bits were there before, like the AUX inputs and things like that. But it is on a separate board, so if you do get any problems, you might be able to easily get around that. On this left hand side here, you've got the MIDI I/O, and what we have actually is a MIDI in and a MIDI out and through, but more of that later. And those 2 sockets are also mounted directly on the board, as is most of the components. Now, you've got a load of capacitors on here and a load of resistors and the rest of it, but you've got also these little chips, which you're seeing more and more and more inside these devices. And I'm not saying you couldn't repair it. You probably could if it failed. You might have to send it back to Hotone. But the fact is, that's the way of the world these days. It's all surface mounted, and it looks quite hard work, and particularly if you didn't have any diagrams or anything like that, you've got no chance. Well, probably. So that's enough of the bottom for now. We'll come back and look at the connectors on the outside and the rest of it later. But I want to move on a little bit to the processor and all that stuff. So let's go and have a look. Now, frankly, I have to say, I've never been inside one of these before, so it's as new to me as it is to you, except that you've never seen it anywhere before, because nobody gives a monkeys about showing you what you're really buying. I've always felt that that is a major important aspect of buying any piece of gear. After all, if it's rubbish inside, it will be rubbish after about 12 months when your warranty fails, won't it? And you know, those are the things to take into account, because I'm telling you, you wouldn't want one of these fail just outside warranty and the manufacturer doesn't fix it or doesn't care, or the dealer doesn't care, or you name it. Have a think about that. So let's have a quick look over what's covered on this other board. And this board actually faces the top of the unit. This white bit down here is the top. Along the back here you can see a daughter board that is for the buttons that are on the outside of the unit, you know, the ones you press, and it's connected with this nice little cable. The bottom board, I'll call it that, which is up there at the moment, is connected with this cable and this cable. But I have a guess, a sneaky feeling, that something to do relating to this is where the processors are. But let's just talk generally for now about the board and the rest of it. You've got some chips down here which we'll come back to in a bit. You've got a USB-C that I like to see, one or two surface mounted chips again, and lots of resistors and the like. It's all hard work if you get a major problem, like I said, but the quality of the device overall, to be honest, is excellent. It's not too often you see them as good as this. In fact, I would say the quality of these boards here is as good as Roland, and some of the Roland stuff's particularly good. If you look at the GT1000 core board, on my other reviews, and I'll probably put a link to one or two reviews down in the text, so you need to consider that. You might want to go and have a look at them, because they do open people's eyes rather a lot. But the quality overall, I think, is it's pretty excellent. You know, I have to say that. Well, as you can see, if you look around this area, I've removed the board. It's just held in place with two screws, and it fastens into these, well, I'll call them pin connectors or edge connectors. Fact is, they just push in there. So let's take a look at the board itself. Okay, well, there it is. That's the main processor board, removed from the Hotone Ampero II Stomp. First time you'll ever seen that. I'm absolutely sure of that, because most reviewers don't know what day it is, and all they do is they're too interested in selling you a product or just twiddling around playing. And that's all fine and good. There's plenty of people that do that. But of course nobody does what I do. So let's take a quick look at this board. And my eyes are on what they used to be, I must admit. But this is the SHARC processor, and more about that processor a bit later. We will when we go back up. And we've got another couple of chips that are on here. There's one down here and one down here. Like I said, more on that when I go back up, when I had a look at the close-ups later on, and we'll talk about the chips, because I think we should, or at least the processor, and maybe one or two other ancillary chips, including the XMOS chip that's on the other board, facing the ceiling, so to speak. We'll come back to that also. So let's turn this board over and have a look what's on the other side of it. Yes, and there it is, our old friend, the Winbond chip. And that's probably, well, again, I can't see from here particularly, but we'll talk about it later. It's probably a memory chip. So I'm going to put this back together. Hopefully it'll work. And we can go from there. Oh well, scarily, I did put it back together and it does work. I did get a couple of little scratches on the front. Well, that's life, isn't it? I guess the stomp pedal will get loads of scratches in its life. Oh well. Okay, well, there are a couple of words of warning for anybody who wants to follow me down that road. First of all, you'll see that on the PCB that I pulled out, the processor board, yeah, there's a small arrow so you can put it back in the right way. And this is important. Listen to what I'm telling you, because you can actually fit that board either way. If you don't know about the arrow, you could just willy-nilly slap it back in, turn on, and you'll never see one of them again. It'll be gone for good. I'll probably spend 5 or 10 minutes on chips and the technology and all the rest of it. It's nothing suffering, because you can just zoom past it. Don't forget to come on this channel, tonymckenziecom, no dot. You can go to my website, tonymckenzie.com, but that doesn't have everything on. So come on to my channel, do a subscribe, ring that bell, do the thumbs up, and when you do the notifications, check all, because if you don't do that, every review that I do isn't going out to anybody. It's quite scary that only about 5% of the people that subscribe actually have all turned on. Quite scary. So your chances of seeing all my videos, all 360 plus of them, it's probably zero. I think I'm approaching 30,000 subscribers, give or take. But there's more to it than that. So don't forget, press that all button. You'll do me a favour and boost my channel. And it's appreciated too. Oh, one last thing. If you're going to pull this thing apart, as I did, the only thing you've got to watch is you can scratch the front. Now you might see it there, but I'll put a picture on the screen. It's very thin paint. That's a criticism actually. Very, very thin paint. And I think any knocks and bangs and the rest, well, yeah, I don't think it holds up too well to that. Would have been nicer being something other than just a very thin matte finish, which is what it is. Ah, well there you are. Right, well it's time to take a closer look at those chips. No, not fish and chips, just the chips. And if you're already in the business, well, sort of like me, you'll find that there's a bit of a shortage of chips at the moment. But I've got a short list of different chips that we found in there, in this little device, and we'll have a quick chat about them. Won't last too long, and you can always skip past. And I think first of all we'll start with the main DSP processor, the SHARC processor. That sounds like a plan. Okay, well I'm going to bring it up on screen now so you can see what we're really talking about. And here it is. The main processor is part of the ADSP series 2157X processors. They are members of the SHARC family of products. Yeah, the ADSP processor is based on the SHARC plus dual core of the ARM Cortex. Fancy that. A5 core. The ASDP 2157X are members of the single instruction, multiple data, SHARC family of digital signal processors. They feature analog devices super Havard architecture. These 32-bit, 40-bit, 64-bit floating point processors are optimized for high performance audio floating point applications with large on-chip static random access memory, or SRAM, multiple internal buses that eliminate input and output bottlenecks, and innovative digital audio interfaces, DAI. New additions to the SHARC core include cache enhancements and branch prediction, while maintaining instruction set compatibility to previous SHARC products. So it's compatible with its firmware and software to earlier versions. By integrating a set of industry-leading system peripherals and memory, the ARM Cortex A5 and SHARC processor is the platform of choice for applications that require programmability similar to reduced instruction set computing, or RISC computing, originally developed by the Acorn Computer Company. These applications open a wide variety of markets, including automotive, professional audio, and industrial-based applications that require high floating point performance. Well, I'm not going to bore you any longer with the SHARC processor and the rest of it, because that can go on for page after page, I think to some ridiculous number of pages, 142 pages. Okay, well, I've got some more pieces of paper here, and what we're going to do is move along a little bit through 2 or 3 or 4 different chips. I won't spend long on them, trust me, but some people are interested in this. One of the chips in there is an MX-RT1050 crossover MCU, microcontroller unit, with an ARM Cortex M7 core. Fancy that. This ARM keeps creeping back, doesn't it? And do remember that it was a British invention. You Americans don't have it all your own way, right? It's a crossover MCU, and it's part of a thing called the Edgeverse edge computing platform. It was introduced as the industry's first crossover MCU. They combine the high performance and high level integration of an applications processor with the ease of use and real-time functionality of a microcontroller. The RT1050 MCU runs on the ARM Cortex M7 core at 600 MHz, which isn't hyper fast, but it is for one of them. Device is fully supported by NXP's MCUX Presso software and tools, so you can download the software and the rest of it, and it's all exciting. Well, that's enough of that one, don't you think? Well, I do, so I think we ought to move on to the next one. And by the way, none of these are in any particular order. I just thought I'd grab the SHARC processor first by its fins and talk about that, and then we'll move through the rest that I've got down here, just as we do. This next one is an OYK15, it's a D9PSL. Now, it doesn't mean anything to you, and I have to tell you, it doesn't mean anything to me either. And Micron is the company that makes them. And it's basically, it's DDR3 SDRAM. That's what it is. And it doesn't really tell you much except for all the rubbish about sizes and access times and things like that. So I'm just going to pass on that one. You've seen it on the screen. I've told you what it is. Well, basically, what more do you want? Now, there are a number of other interesting chips in this unit that I've never seen before. Well, you might have, but I haven't, and most of the viewers here probably haven't either. But it is interesting stuff, because this is what you're actually buying, as opposed to what you think you're buying. And when I get a bit further down, we're going to have a look at one of these chips, and you will see yourself that it's not perfect. But we'll talk about that after. Anyway, the next one is this one's called XMOS. And XMOS generally, it's on the screen now. XMOS generally, I'll talk just generally about, not specifically about that device, but XMOS has innovations in embedded systems. It's a University of Bristol spin-out company. It now employs more than 50 people across 3 continents, working to improve efficiency and lower production costs for electronic manufacturers. The microcontroller chips developed by XMOS can be programmed quickly and easily using standard C and C++ programming language. But unlike traditional products, the devices have multiple processor cores, so they can execute several tasks simultaneously and independently, and that's important. XMOS's XCORE technology makes it easier for customers to design complex embedded systems for a range of consumer, audio, importantly note, industrial and automotive applications. It enables uniquely short development cycles, an agile build process, energy efficient processors, and the ability to correct faults quickly, says Professor David May of the University of Bristol's Department of Computer Science. Well, I'm not going to carry on with that one. Here it is. I'll have a link to it down below if somebody wants to go and read the paper about that, because I think it's pretty interesting stuff, actually. Yeah, that's another English processing development. Fancy that. Now, I have got a couple of chips made by a company called ESS. ESS technology comes, by the way, from San Jose, California. I found a couple of chips or something near these inside this unit. I'll talk generally about the ones I found because they're probably of a similar family. It's called an ES9018K2M Sabre. It's a high-performance 32-bit, 2-channel audio D-to-A converter targeted for audiophile-grade portable power-sensitive applications, such as digital music players, consumer applications, such as Blu-ray players, audio preamps, and AV receivers, as well as a professional application such as recording systems, mixer consoles, and digital audio workstations. So you can see straight off that these devices are specifically very useful for everything to do with audio. Using the critical acclaimed ESS patented 32-bit Hyperstream DAC architecture and time domain jitter eliminator, the ES9018K2M Sabre reference DAC delivers a DNR of up to 127 decibels and THD plus N of minus 120 dB, a performance level that will satisfy the most demanding audio enthusiasts. I could talk about these all day, I'm not going to, but I just wanted to get you to understand that they do have these ESS devices inside. And I could see 3, 4 or 5 or 6, or well, there were a lot of them. You go and try and find them yourself. They all say ESS on them. So have a good look for them. They are pretty powerful devices. Well, this is the last chip, and yeah, I'm glad it's the last chip because we could talk about it on and on and on. But it's our old friend, Winbond. Let's bring that up on the screen. Yeah, Winbond, the W9825G6KH. That rolls off the tongue. It's a high-speed, synchronous, dynamic, random access memory. So it's SD-RAM, organised as 4 M words times 4 banks times 16 bits. It delivers a data bandwidth of up to 200 M words per second to fully comply with the Personal Computer Industrial Standard. It's guaranteed to support minus 40 degrees C all the way up to 85 degrees C. So listen, you guys in the tents, you know, in Antarctica, this is for you. You can get one of these out. Anyway, enough of my frivolousness. That's the end of the chip section. Oh man, I'm glad to see the back of that. But it was worth the effort. Every one of these types of devices that I look at, to be honest, they all say roughly the same thing. This one's thrown in CDCM, HD and F.I.R.E modelling algorithms. Well, yeah, but every one of them's got their own, haven't they? Have you noticed that? They all call it something different, but like they say here, oh yeah, well this goes back, you know, decades, it says. Something like that. Well, all the others go back decades too. So I'm not entirely convinced about any of that sort of thing. And when you're looking at a device like this, you should be considering that. Is this offering something completely different or isn't it? My opinion is it is offering something different internally. Now, whether that equates to the sound that comes out, we'll find out later because we're going to cover that. But I just wanted to raise the point about the CDCM, HD and F.I.R.E modelling, which very few people have even mentioned. So let's move on. We'll have a quick look around the outside edge. Okay, well let's get on with this. Don't mess around all day. This one here, volume knob. Just the volume of the output and headphones. Simple, really. Anybody can figure that out. This is the 4-inch screen, where it's touch screen as well, so you can get around that and loads of different stuff quite easily. I find that the way that this is set up is a little bit better than the MX5. Well, I thought so, but there you go. Number 3, this one basically, it's a menu and value knob. It's the main knob, the main one you'll use. If you turn it or press it, this knob allows you to change menus, etc. and that sort of thing, you know. Now we've got these 3 across the bottom here. Now these, as you can see here, if I turn that, you can probably see this setting here going up and down, probably. So that's what they're for. Then we've got these across the bottom. They're all good fun. This one here, I mean, foot switches, aren't they? Pretty obvious. They change patches, turn on and off effects, set tempos and sort of things like that. Now you can have, if you press 2 you go down a bank, and if you press 2 you go up a bank, which is pretty simple to understand, I would guess. Yeah, we've also got this thing on the front here, which is open or closed. That's locked, nothing works, and that's open. Yeah, very good feature. If you're using it on the stage, yeah, you'll be thankful for that one. Okay, well, around the side here, we've got a couple of things. This is something that's not on the original Ampero, and this is an effects loop. It's a send and return effects loop, which is, it's pretty good because it's stereo. It's quarter unbalanced stereo, TRS inputs and output. The send's a quarter unbalanced stereo TRS for feeding signal to devices, and the return unbalanced stereo TRS input for receiving signals from other devices. Well, obviously. If you need a stereo connection, by the way, you need a Y cable, and it's not supplied by default, just so you know that. There's also an auxiliary in, which you could put anything in there, feed anything in. But it's one of those 1/8 of an inch connectors. I don't particularly like them. And we've also got a phone's socket, which is also 1/8 of an inch. And again, they're fiddly, they're little. Can you imagine them sitting on the floor somewhere? Oh my God. Okay, well, here we go. At this end, the other end, we've got MIDI in and out, which is 5-pin standard MIDI. And one thing I do want to tell you is It's no 7-pin thing with voltages on so you can drive all the pedals and things like that. There's nothing so luxurious in this unit. Having said that, it's effective for what it is. But there's also, I like to see this, contrary to what I saw on the GT1000 Core, I think it was the Core, might have been one of the other Roland devices where they had one of the old-fashioned USB ports on there, a micro USB. At least this one is a Type C, and it's good to see, you know, current technology products using current technology sockets. That makes sense to me, I don't know. Okay, now here we are around the back, and it proudly denotes CDCM HD plus F.I.R.E, the thing we were talking about a few seconds ago. But I'm more interested in the connections for now. So if you look at here, this one, this is an expression control. It's 1/4-inch TRS for connecting external expression pedals. Momentary foot switch controller. It's perfect for the Ampero press or Ampero switch, which I have one. In fact, here it is now. There's its wire, connects in there, and it gives you 2 extra switches. Now, you might think that isn't important, but I can tell you that it's very important. Works quite well. Next one's the input, pretty obvious, and it's stereo. You've got a left mono and a right, all very simple. Seen millions of them before. Next one along is the output. This is balanced output. We've got a left mono and a right for that. Excitingly, well, at least for me, there is an on and off power switch, and I'm really happy that that's there. When you haven't got one of these, it's a right pain in the... And lastly, we've got the input voltage. The thing about this one is it's anything between 9 volts and 18 volts, 800 milliamps, yeah. And the positive is the outside on the connector. Okay, well, this is a very quick overview of what we've got here. You can see the switches and knobs and things that we've all talked about, but you've got a load of other stuff as well that floats around in here. Let's start off with global, because I think that matters. We've got things for I/O, and they're adjusted down the bottom here. You can see that whether we go to USB, again, most of the things when you touch them, and if there's extra buttons, they're usually along there. Yeah, all very simple. There's loads of stuff on MIDI, of course, but we do have a global EQ. And the thing about a global EQ, it's always good. If you're doing gigs in different venues, you can just quickly tweak this around and end up with some good sounds. It sounds like a plan to me, that does. You can adjust the display. Here we are, display modes, various things. I'm not going to do any of them because there's no point. This isn't about, and it's in tiny writing down at the bottom, but you can probably see that it's firmware version 1.01. Yeah, hardware version 1. So this is one of the first ones out of the gate, I guess. Other than the ones they give away. I had to buy this one. Oh, fancy that. That's why you get a real review. And then we've got a factory reset. I'm not going to do it, because I don't want to. It wouldn't add up, would it? One of the first things you should do, go into global, go into I/O, and look for the input level. This one says EGT. So we can acoustic guitar, electric guitar, or line. And you want it on EGT, but as you can see, I already did it. Output level set to line, but once again you can set it to instrument or line. Set it to what you want really. Any other options? DSP bypass, output source, on it goes, but the one that matters for now is this one on these inputs. Electric guitar seems to work. Well, it would do, because that's what I'm plugging in. Now on the old Ampero, you used to have 1 or 2 little things printed on here, such as tuner. Well, on this one, all you do is you just hold button number 1 down, and there's a tuner. It's not plugged in, so I'm not going to worry about any of that, but that's how you get to it, and you can soon go back or just hold the button again. Selecting patches is painfully simple, really. You can move this around to where you want, and if we move it to there and press the button, we can then hop through all the patches, as you can see. And the buttons down below are actually flipping as we go. Of course, you can use the buttons as well. So let's have a quick run around the screen. I won't be on it all day. Control, expression pedal, loads of things we can set up. I'm not going to do it because we're going to go and look at the software, which saves a load of grief. So let's just whiz off into the looper, and it's very simple to do. Hit the looper, and there it is. You get 60 seconds of stereo looping here. But you can see that you can go to half speed, you can go to reverse, you can do this, you can do that, you can go to mono as well, among other things. So the looper itself is, I think it's improved over the previous one on the original Ampero. Yeah, so if you're into using them things, well, really great. It's very simple. You can adjust your record levels and you, anymore, I doubt it, channel A. You can see the stuff to change down here, but like I said, we're going to have a look later. Well, here we are, back up top, so to speak. And there's no point in spending hours on end on that little screen down there. And there's good reason for that, because when we go and look at the software that's coming up next, well, to be honest, you can get at everything on this device from the software. And I mean everything. It's very, very good software. That's one of the things I like about the Ampero range, in fact. The whole bunch of them from Hotone have the same software, or it's very similar software. If it isn't the same, it looks the same to me. Yeah, so very interesting product, and let's not spend any more time here. Let's get on with it. And, you know, when I looked at a competitive device not long ago, the MX5, the MX5 wasn't that bad a device, to tell you the truth. But what was concerning a little bit is it didn't have any software to edit anything. Now, that might have changed by now. They might add that, or they might not. But to me, that was a bit of a shortcoming. Whereas this product, that's a major feature to me that makes this device easier to set up and easier to use. So let's go and take a look at that software as we mean to. Yeah, there's a little omission there. We'll just add it in now while we're here. You do get your USB cable. There it is. Very nice. And it's a USB-C from standard USB-A, which matters. You've also got a female USB-A to USB-C as well, which is thrown in. And I didn't mention these horrible plastic tops that you can put on the top of this. You can sort of sit them on, which makes the pedal bigger. But to be honest, I think they look so cheap and nasty, I really wouldn't ever put them on. Anyway, onto the software. Just while the software's downloading, it does actually need a different version of editor for the Stomp. Do bear that in mind. And the Ampero II Stomp editor is version 1 for Windows I've got. You might have for Mac, but they do have one. Bear that in mind. Okay, well, here we go. And as you can see, the first thing you get on here is this sort of splash screen that tells you about all the different areas of the software, which is nice. It didn't do that on the old version, I don't think. But you can have a look at these various things here. You've got, it tells you what covers what. For example, select the patches, the patch search bar, click to select a patch, right click a patch for more operations. All good stuff. Input options, indicates the input level down here. Effects search bar, here's your effects. The category and the list of current module, clicks to search, and so on and so forth. Got the module names. This is the patch volume. Output options, patch tools, output level. Effects chain display. And you click to choose a slot module. Click on top of a module to turn it on or off. Drag a module, or the same so on and so forth that we've always had. So I'm just going to click OK there. Okay, well, here we are. Here's the newer software. It's a pity it doesn't cover the entire screen, as you can see at the moment, but that's okay. So we'll have a look around, just have a quick look. We've got this section up here for the input modes and all the rest of it. And if anybody can, I might show you just the screen here. Over there, it's showing you where we've gone and what we're doing, which is all nice. We've got the general settings. I've got them all on electric guitar. You can have an acoustic guitar, or you can have it on a line in for keyboards and things like that. And on the output, instrumental line. Well, mine's going to be line. I've got DSP bypass. Output source is normal. I can have USB only or dry. I'll leave it normal. Yeah, so we get the best of all worlds, I guess. We've got a MIDI section down here. Well, who knows? Doesn't really matter. But we can change these things quite dramatically. Different clocks and stuff like that. Got your global EQ, which we showed earlier, and it's very simple. You can just drag it around. Well, if anybody knows what an EQ is, I'm sure you do. There it is, and we can grab the different bands and set it up however we want it for any particular site. Remember, it affects the output dramatically depending what you do. We've gone about. Oh my God, I don't really want any more than that. We can update the firmware. I'm not going to do that either. We've got a help screen, about time. Viewer manual, very nice. I couldn't find anywhere to download that, although it might be there somewhere. And you've got release notes, version 1, released till 5th of the 11th, 2021, which is pretty not long ago. So that's covered up there. Most of this stuff is par for the course to people that have used this sort of thing before. That's the thing. We've got a patch list down here. If I hit that one, that's the patch we've got. You can see it there. And what's important about this, like I said, is the older Ampero device really didn't have all this snake. So that's good in its own little way. You'll all remember this device from not very long ago when I reviewed it, and yeah, very different indeed. Now, while we're in here, we might as well talk a little bit about some of the differences that are going on. For example, this is 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz sample rate on this device. And yeah, very good. 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, plus or minus 1 dB. Well, that's basically what you can hear. If it's beyond that, you can't usually hear anything. It's got a dynamic range of 127 decibels, digital to analog. Believe it or not, there are 460, including global EQ, that is, effects in this unit. Yeah. Don't know where they all are, but they're in here. The effect slots, there's a total of 12 simultaneous effect slots. Now that hasn't changed from what the other one was on, I think. The other older device, the Ampero, had 12 slots. There are 300 patches, 300, not 100, like there was in the older device. And the looper time, we've already spoke about it, but it's 60 seconds in stereo, which means it's probably 120 seconds in mono. And it's probably longer than that if you go to half speed, which is 240. Yeah, 4 minutes. We talked about the screen on the unit, and that's a 4-inch 800x400 colour dynamic display touchscreen. I also like the Type-C port USB. That, well, is good. And it weighs about 1,050 grams, so it's about a kilo in weight, is the device itself. But there is more to this device than even what I've said, believe it or not. It's impossible to cover everything, and I won't be. Far too much to cover. And one of the important things is this chain, this effects chain that I've already mentioned. Has only got 12 things, but it's highly customizable, and it's a dual effect chain, and it's got multiple serial parallel signal routing support in it, which it didn't have on the old device. You can add any effect module you like to the effect chain. So you can have any one of 12. So there. And that again wasn't the case with the older one. You can have up to 12 simultaneous effect modules, these things. There's an upgraded effects library which delivers 400 plus effects. Well, that's a lot of stuff. And by the way, also in here, you have got the original 60 plus Hotone original effects, which included high quality drive, dynamic, filter, modulation, delay, reverb models and more. There's also a dedicated IR loader, which we'll come to, no doubt. And that supports third-party IR support, up to 50 custom IRs. And I think on the previous model, I think we could only go up to something like, I think it was 25 or 30. So that's been improved as well. Now, when we get to the IRs, that's also another major area of upgrade. Yeah, it does support up to 2048 IR sampling points, and you get a better tonal resolution with that. I could harp on about this stuff all day, so I think what we'll do is we'll just have a wander around at what we've got. You can rename it, the patch that is. We can move across patches with this left and right, all very simple. You can see they're all quite interesting stuff. Look, we've got these auxiliary runs, I'll call them that. You'll call it parallel. But there they are. You can see it's very different than the old device. Of that there's no doubt. And if we just whiz back to the standard one for now, we can go rename a patch, save a patch, import a patch, export a patch, select an effect chain, save effect chain settings as a template. You can change the patch tempo. We can change the input for any of these, and we can change the output for any of these. It's all exciting. Got a patch volume I haven't changed. We'll come down to this bit down here a little bit later, but let's go and have a look what we've got in here. Well, there's a Marshall amp, and when you click it, you can see that you're getting all the Marshall sort of, well, knobs. So we want to whiz around to different Marshalls. I don't think many of them are that different, if you want the truth. You can see the SLP jumpered. It's got some different things in the 45. What else have we got in here? We've got loads and loads. Dumble, Bassman, Brown King Drive, whatever that is. Yeah, so there's a lot to go at. Leave it at that. You can adjust these so easy. I'm not even going to waste your time with them because everybody knows how that all works. You can also select these amps by type down here. So we could have clean amps, there they are, drive amps, high gain amps, bass amps even, if you know any bassmen, yeah. Oh, power amp, yeah, I'll whip back to all. Yeah, all very exciting that is. Marshall, don't look at that. Oh my God, they're getting worse, aren't they? I'm surprised no amp company comes after any of them. That's just an opinion, of course. So, if we look at the cab, let's move away from this, because I know you spend all day doing that. In the cab section, it is actually quite interesting. Because one of the things they've done in the cab section is change a few things. Now, when we're talking about IRs, a number of things matter with IRs, as you might well know. You might not know though. And the thing is, you can have 2048 IR sampling points or 1024. Now, a lot of these companies that make these devices don't always tell you exactly what they support. And there aren't so many that support 2048 IR sampling points. That is twice as many as the first Ampero, but it captures studio quality. It's better. It's sound better. They say, not me. But they've also partnered with Celestion. Now the thing about Celestion is that they know what they're talking about when you're talking about speakers. Yeah, they really do. And the fact is that they include, I think they include 20. I think there's 20 separate Celestion cabs included. Yeah. Let's have a look. Does it even tell you? I don't know. I don't think they can say Celestion on them, are they? That's the only problem. Oh well. Nothing I can get at you. Well, let's have a look at microphones. Well, how many of them is there? Oh yeah, a few to be going on with. Not as many as I might have thought. Yeah. And on the microphone, I suppose we can sort of grab it and just... No, we can't. Okay. Yeah. It sort of moves it. Yeah. Can you move it? No, you just can't move it. But that might change in some other setup. It's a bit weird. Remember, I'm showing them you because they don't work, not because they do. So, just whizzing through these cabs. They're all set up for different things, as they would be. You can see here what's going on. And you've got some information down here. It's a bit small, isn't it? You know, you're scrolling through these little tiny things like this. For operational purposes, that's a bit of a pain in the neck. Look at it. All this tiny little writing. I'd expect the window to open up or something, but it doesn't. Oh well. We can move along to other effects. I'm going to leave that as it is for now, but you've got the gist of it. 2048 sampling points, that's the thing, and there's 20 Celestion cabs included, which does help. So we're going to have a look at something else. Whatever it might be, you can see it all here. Various gates, fast gate, this gate, no water gate in there. But don't worry about that. And we can choose compressors, boosts, noise gate. There is a lot of them. And when we're talking of effects, I've already talked of the number of effects that are available in this device, and they are extensive. In the manual, by the way, for the Ampero II Stomp itself, not for the software, but for the hardware, it covers every single effect that you might want to put in there. And my God, there are a lot of them. Look at all this down here. Well, on reverbs you've got all these here. On delays you've got all these here. Modulation. But there is a lot of stuff. There's no getting away from it, is there? Even the FX loop, we can sort of send and receive and do all sorts of things. I can't go through everything in this because I'll be here for a month on this video. I really would. But as long as you get a gist of what the thing's got. You know, at one stage I used to go through the manual and show you how to do all this stuff. But to be honest, it gets all a bit boring after a while because it's all very, very similar in most devices. But interesting, you can move it around, you can see the things you can do. So easy, so easy. I can take this one and move it to there, swap them around, so to speak, if that's what you want to do. Whatever you want to do, doesn't really matter. It's all there to do, isn't it? Yeah. I can go through various patches by definition. So if I want the rock ones, here they are. If I want the metal ones, oh, fancy that. There aren't any. I'd have thought there'd been some in there. Apparently not. Pop. No pop. Okay. No blues. What's going on? Maybe they aren't defined. Maybe that's it. Okay, well maybe you've got Adam yourself. Maybe that's just one of the things that they've done. Well, I didn't spend too long on that, and I didn't really want to because the software is quite common these days and there's not much you can say about it except to poke around a little bit, and I didn't want it to turn into being a tutorial on how to use it. I've done that before on other products, and they go on for a very long time. Well, this is not a short video, is it? Unfortunately, it's not. But that's life. So let's move along further from having a look at the software and having a look at the features of the hardware and the rest of it. And let's think a bit more about the device itself and, you know, the costs and the rest of it. Well, this one cost me about £449 or something like that, £420, something like that. So it's not a cheap device, and if I was to turn that into dollars, that's about $550 to $600 where I am. Now, where you are, I think they're $499. But of course, you've got your local tax in America and all the rest of that. So does it make mine a bargain or not? I don't think it does. I think my $449 or whatever it was, it's worth the money. That's what I would say. Definitely worth the money, even though you haven't got that, that extra pedal that you had on the original Ampero, which is a bit of a frustration. Now, I've got those pedals, but you might not have, and I'd recommend that you at least have some expression pedal. It's useful. Now, I do want to draw your attention to one of those chips that we saw, because I'm always hypercritical about quality, because quality is with you for the life of this device. When you buy it, you get what they sell you. Thinking about the Fried Man. Check that review out sometime. So anything that's a little bit not quite right, I like to highlight a bit. As the evil owl's looking at it, there he is. And he did see something in here. So if you take a look at this chip that's on the screen right now, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what chip it is. It's a chip that's inside, and it's one of the important ones, I guess. And as you can see, if you look all the way around the edges of it, you can see what they call flux. Yeah, flux. Now, that's used when you're soldering devices onto boards and things like that. Now, they're usually soldered on, or what they call flow soldered, onto the board. But it looked to me in this case, and I could be wrong here, it's just a guesstimate really, but it looked to me like that this particular chip had been hand flowed on later, and it's left a residue of flux around that chip. Now, that flux is not very good stuff, because what it is it eats away over time and can cause damage, and depending on the flux. But you can see that this flux, you have a look around it yourself and you make your own mind up. But to me, I wasn't too happy to see it provided, in that way. And I wouldn't have seen that had I not opened it up. And so all of those reviews that you see out there, that none of them, not one of them, gives a monkeys about showing you what you're buying, wouldn't have shown you that. Now, your device might be very different than that. It might be perfect. It might be this. It might be that. And indeed, they might even use flux that doesn't have any effect, but I doubt that somewhat. So there it is. That's one of the points I just wanted to raise. So the chip itself, in my opinion, and the way it was fitted, affects the quality of the device in long term. That was the point I was getting across, and that will be taken into account when I offer a score a bit later on. I also, by the way, did download the manual. I always download manuals because I think they're actually quite useful, because from this point onwards, which is page 41, all the way up to page 95 and beyond, they're all effects, and it tells you about every single effect and what's in there. And you aren't easily going to get that when you're looking at it with your little phone or whatever it is you're using. So I recommend you download the manual. It's a very useful piece of gear, is the manual. And yeah, you should do that. I do it for every device. Now, of course, we move on to, which is also something also important, which is warranty. Now, if you're thinking about anything that you buy these days, some of them have got long warranties on them, but they usually have lots of exclusion clauses that stop you putting a claim in. I suppose that's the name of the game for some people or some companies. This one appears to have a 1-year warranty, from what I can see. It appears to have a 1 year warranty, and when you get past your 1 year warranty, well, they might help you, but they might not. Most companies tend not to want to help you, and they also have exclusion clauses all over the place regarding something like manufacturing defects only. Well, what that means is, well, if something else goes wrong that wasn't due to physically manufacturing, tough. Yeah, so always watch warranties. They always matter. Anything after the 12th month, if they end at 12 months. And trust me, if it fails at 13 months or 15 months, I think £449 for 15 months worth of use would be expensive when I can buy other devices that have 5 years warranty for a similar price, or in that sort of area. Yeah, it's important to remember. Now, I have listened to this device, and I think it sounds really good. It does. I think it sounds better than the old Ampero as well. So there's benefit. You've got a loop. You've got lots of features that weren't on the old Ampero. It's sitting down there now. I did a quick review because this one was coming along, and I did say I'd compare them. And well, I'm sort of comparing them by raising the points about the processors and the extra this and the extra that. So I hope you see it that way. I could get that device out and spend another 6 hours doing it, but I don't think I will. Now then, Tony, what's the score? How would you rate it? How would you compare this for value, for its quality, for its warranty coverage, for its manuals, and for everything else that you could consider when you buy this thing? How would I rate it out of a 10? Well, when I first looked inside this device, it looked exceedingly good. Well, it did until I flipped that little board apart that's got the processor on it. I mean, that might even be made by somebody else, who knows? It was all good. It was all a 10 out of 10 until that point. And then once I saw the flux, I thought to myself, you know, that looks like it's been added later, and that could be the case, bearing in mind the situation with chip manufacturing these days. That's a chip, and you can mark my words, they are extremely hard to get right now. You're getting small numbers, small quantities. So I can imagine somebody, some manufacturer, I won't name this one, but I can imagine some manufacturer that got most of the chips except for one, and they hand soldered those on later. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with this one, but you know, it could add up to being like that. Nobody will ever tell you, of course, but it isn't the chip itself being soldered on, if that was the case. It's more the case of seeing that flux and assuming what I assume for the long term. So this one, I'm afraid it's getting a 7 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10, because I don't like to see that sort of thing going on. It looks bad, and it is bad. I'll just refresh your mind again. Just take another real quick look at that chip, and you can see yourself that you would be nuts if you just relate that to being a 10 out of 10. Anyway, there you go. That's my opinion. 7 out of 10. Not a bad device. Remember, your device may not be like this one, so could be a 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, I got the short straw. Well, the plane's coming up soon, and you're going to have a listen at a few chords and things like that. I might play a track or two, or I might not. Depends what mood I'm in and what time I've got left. I've spent a long time up to now coming along and getting this to where it is, to what you've seen up to now. Some people don't care. They don't want to see this sort of review. They want to go off and watch a 10-minute guy playing and that's it. Well, that's all right. Go and do that. But I like to show you what you're really buying. So have a good look at what's coming up. Have a good listen at what's coming up, and see what you think. I think it's a pretty good device. It's only got 7 out of 10 because of what I've seen, not what I've heard. What I've heard sounds good. I also like all the other features, like the USB-C. Yeah, rather than that bloody terrible micro USB on other devices where they can't be bothered to update. I don't like that. I also love that power switch. Yeah, the things that are so simple that nobody puts on them anymore, trying to save 3p or something. I don't know. So that's it. That's it for now on the Ampero II Stomp. And I have got other stuff coming up. Yeah. Now come on, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. And importantly, when you go and do that click on the bell, do click all for notifications. Otherwise, you'll be one of the 94% that don't click all and never get any notifications of the next video. All my videos are different. These are long ones, but I do shorter ones as well and interesting ones. This is an interesting one, I think, in its own way. But I've got a Marshall amp coming up in December, assuming it arrives with me in time, and it'll be an amp that, well, you've never seen before, so it's definitely worth the watch. I've got some other stuff sitting down there off camera. I've got a headrush pedal. I've got, well, I'm not going to tell you what I've got. I'm going to make you wait. Yeah, so interesting stuff coming up. I'll see you next time. Don't forget, by the way, to go to www.tonymckenziecom and always look down there in the text, because there's loads of information and links to some of the stuff that I found in this review. It's all good for you. It takes me a long time to do it. It gets harder as I get older too. So till next time, listen to the music. Get out of here. Yeah, so I'm going to record some presets, just the odd one. You'll see them on screen as they play, so there's no ifs or buts and things like that. Okay, well this time we've got the other guitar out with Fishman Fluence on. This is a Queen sort of preset, 5-3. So here it is. And this one I thought was quite interesting really, especially when you got your cans on and that sort of thing, you know. Now this one's some ambient tone, you'll get it. Now then, people tell me all the time that these units are great, but they're not always great, and they not always have things in that you could easily use. Well, maybe you could, but I couldn't. And this one's 12-1, and it's called Synth Lead in C major. Now, its biggest problem, I have to say, is the delay. If you watch really careful how I pick, you'll find there's a delay. Okay, well this next one, surprisingly, 15-3 is AFD number 34. If anybody knows what that is, I do, but do you? Well, go and check it out. But I backed off the tone on this, well the volume in fact, a little bit, down to about number 7.5 or 8. And you get a sort of better tone, I think, otherwise it's belting out. Okay, well this one's 22-1 and it's an acoustic simulator for humbucker 1, and then you've got a 2 and a 3 I think. This is the last one I'm going to do, because I could be here all day else. This is 23-2 and it says here pick strumming, so that's what you're going to get. I've got a bit of a track coming on. Don't know whether it'll work out or not, because, you know, sometimes it's quite difficult in here. Till next time, get out of here.
Yeah.